Howdy everyone, and welcome back to a Hearts of Iron video. So this is going to be very much a tutorial video on how to actually play the game. This is going to be for beginners only. I'm not going to be talking about things like tactics or get into like the really nitty-gritty of things. I'm just going to be letting people know what is and isn't possible. So let's go over the basics first. So you have a bunch of stuff on the top of your screen, and all of this is important. So the first one that we are going to cover is political power. Now, this is how you are going to affect your actual government in and of itself. And so you can see I can have anti-democratic raids, and because I am playing Germany, I want to stay fascist just because it's the easiest road and there's no real reason to go communist. And no one wants to play Democratic because you don't get to do anything when you're a Democrat. So overall, you want to stay fascist. So, I would use 50 political power, what you see right here. I would use 50 political power, and I would do an anti-democratic raid. Now, this is actually going to take 120 days for it to start up and for it to actually activate, but once it is fully activated, my my Democratic Party is actually going to start losing popularity. And once it gets down to a certain point, you will eventually be able to do ban the Democratic Party. And so, as you can see, the party has to be below 20% support. And so because democracy right now has exactly 20%, you can't actually get rid of it. It has to be below. So it has to be at 19 or below in order to actually do anything. So political parties, you have to watch out for them because if you don't, your government can actually go into a civil war if you're not careful. And so you always, I always recommend if you've got free political power, you definitely want to be making sure that your political parties are in check. It can also, your political parties will allow you to do certain things. Fascism and communism are fairly similar, with the exception being, you know, friends, you can get melting pot. That you can only get that when you're communist, and so there's certain things that aren't available to each political party. Democratic sucks ass because you aren't able to declare war, and there's a bunch of other stuff that you can't do. So basically, you just kind of sit on your ass and do nothing. Communism and fascism actually, or fascist, communism and fascists will actually let you declare war, let you take land and conquer it. So that's why everyone wants to play communist or fascist. So there you go. Also, political power will let you actually give more insight into the actual government inner workings. So, for instance, right now, if we were low manpower, let's say we're at zero manpower, we didn't have anyone who was ready to fight, and we needed men right now. Well, we could go into a level higher, extensive conscription. And this is kind of the extensive conscription is like the base because there's no downside to actually having it, and it has a 5% recruitable population. Oh, it has a 5% recruitable population. But after this, you actually start receiving factory and construction speed debuffs the more you go down. But as you can see, a 25% recruitable population, so you would do scraping the barrel if you are losing the war and this is life or death. The other thing that you can do is things like trade laws, economy laws. You can get political advisors, designers. You can get all sorts of stuff, and this is what political power does. I'm not going to get into what all of these guys do. Every nation has different people for things like political advisors, high command that will all do different things. So it really is country to country. But these three right here, economy laws, trade laws, and conscription laws, are all the exact same across every country. So, there's some simplicity there. And lastly, the political power. Um, you actually do want to make sure that you don't go in the negative, because if you go into the negative, you receive really bad stability. You lose war support. So if you're in a war, you can actually start losing. Um, you actually start to lose people who actually want to sign up for war, and you also like surrender limits, so people give up sooner. So it's overall just really bad. So you really want to make sure you're not in the negative. And political power, lastly, can there will be pop-ups that'll say like your people are on strikes, and so you can spend some political power to ease the people down, or you could just kill them. So either way, whatever you want to do. But there's always so it's really up to you and how you want to spend it. The next thing that we're going to go into is national focus. This is different for every nation, but basically it is completely free to do this, except for the ones down here, the continuous focuses. Uh, but everything up here, like Great Depression recovery, I could do this and it costs me nothing, but it will take 35 days. Or I could unlock the Rhineland, which would take another 35 days. And so these are ways to get your nation to do stuff. So, for instance, instead of spending political power to get a war support, or not a war support, to get a like fabricate a claim on Iraq, you can just straight up get it through your national focus. So that's always something that you can do. It gives you different bonuses. I currently have. There's going to be a lot more to the German tree because I have a Road to 56, which allows me to like kill Hitler, or start a monarchy. So each to their own. But national focuses are generally really good because they're free, except for continuous focuses, which costs political power, but it costs almost nothing when it comes to political power. So if you need just a population boost, like you're running out of people, aggressive population growth. If you need industry incredibly fast built, then construction engineering. So these won't ever end, and they're just constant buffs. So like division training time, it's never gonna run out. But you're also not getting free bonuses. Like whenever I begin Great Depression recovery, I get a bunch of building slots. I don't get that if I were to do something like army training. The second thing we are going to go into is research. Now, it really is what it sounds like. Research will allow you to get better bonuses. All of the research trees are exactly the same. It doesn't change across the board. And so the only thing that it does change is these, like, the type of tanks. Like, it says Tiger right here. It may say something else, like maybe Sherman for the Americans or whatever. And so maybe the name of the tank is different, but overall, it is still the same tech tree. It'll have the same layout. You'll have, like, 2 heavy tanks, and then it'll go into medium. It's just what they're called is different. And so, overall, it's the exact same. Support companies are something that will help your army. I'm not going to get too in-depth because these are the exact same, and they're not really... They're important to know as a player, but as a viewer, you don't need to know them. They're just kind of passive bonuses. You can get better guns, you can get better infantry. So if you want to know that, then let me know. I can definitely talk about it, like, in an actual video, just to let you guys know. So I'm not, making an entire training video on just, like, research strategies alone. Or at least I'm not wasting time right now. So the other thing that you can do is you are going to have construction. So right now we have nothing building. You always want to have something building, because right now we have a bunch of civilian factories that are doing nothing. And civilian factories do nothing to the war. Like, if you are in war, civilian factories do nothing. All they do is help build and help repair. So if they are not doing either, you are just wasting your time. It is just wasted potential. So because I have 31 civilian factories, I will be able to complete things much faster than, let's say, the Imperial State of Iran, which only has 5. The more civilian factories you have, the faster things will actually build. And so generally it's a really good idea to start, when the game starts, to try to get as many as possible. But overall, I mean, as long as things are building, this is how you build things like air bases, anti-air construction, these all... So how many factories you put down? Like, see, I can only put 8 down right here, but I can put 12 down right here. That's because the infrastructure is actually better. See how it's 8 and 7? The better the infrastructure, the more factories you can put down. So just a good tip. Also, the more infrastructure you have, the more armies can be put in that province. So like this province that's now has the yellow lines across it can only hold so many men before you just simply can't transport enough goods to supply the men. And so if you have better infrastructure, you can supply more men. The other thing is production. This is where you actually use your military factories. So like right now I have a stockpile, but let's say, see, this is also where you use dockyards. So right now I don't have enough dockyards to build something like the 1936 destroyer hull. So this is grayed out because it's supposed to be there. I'm supposed to use it, but I don't actually have enough. So it's basically once a dockyard frees up, it's going to go to here. And it's going to start building this. Whenever it's gray like this, you see how this one is like a bright blue, this one is like a grayer blue? That means that there is actually a more advanced version of what you're building. And so let's say we were to replace it with a destroyer. So, like, right here, now it is back to the normal background color. So that's how you can tell if something is out of date. So there's no reason to build out-of-date equipment. The only reason that you wouldn't change is because the more modern the equipment is, the more resources it takes. So some people don't want... In, like, really bad nations, like maybe the Imperial State of Iran, you don't want to be building modern guns because you just don't have the resources to support it. So that could be another reason. You have recruit and deploy, and this is where you train your men. You tell the game how many men you want. Like, let's say I want 20 divisions to train all at one time. Well, I would have to have 20 divisions worth of supplies to train them. So, for instance, you can tell how much infantry equipment, support equipment, tower artillery, that is how much I need to make all of these men. And so you can actually ready them before they're ready. Right when they hit about here, you can send them out into the battlefield. That means that they aren't going to be very skilled units, but if you just need units to go, you don't have to fully train them. They don't have to be really good when they leave. You can just fucking crank out units before they're ready. Okay, so now that we've got all of these done, let's also talk about stability. So right now, you can see that I have 9 stability. That is horrible. And so right now, I am losing 16% political power. I have a 41% loss in factory output, dockyard output, and resistance. So if we look on here, my resistance is 0. You see how no numbers are popping up, which means that I have absolutely no resistance. But if I leave the 9 stability and I don't do anything to actually help it, your resistance will start building up, it'll start increasing, and if it does increase too high, then you will actually, the province where the resistance is really high, so let's say the full outline right here, the one that I'm highlighting with my cursor, this will actually break apart. You won't be able to receive any of the factories or infrastructure that's on this territory, and most of the time they will declare war against you and you have to retake the province. So it's very time consuming and can really fuck over your men having to move. You know, if I was trying to take out Poland and all of a sudden I have to take a division to go down here and reconquer this province, that is a big problem. So you really want to make sure that you have a high stability. And so, let's say I have 100% stability. Now you can see that I have a lot more. My factory output is actually 20% positive. I have a bigger political power gain. And so that is the kind of thing where you want as much stability as you physically can get. War support is the same general concept. You have mobilization speed, which means how many men can you make. That goes into recruit time. And so, how many men you actually make and how fast you make them is mobilization surrender limit. So how much land do people need to take from you before your government gives up and you fully lose? And then obviously daily command power gain multiplier, you lose 28% command power. And so let's just set the war support to 100. And so now you can see that it's all positive. So once again, want to have as high war support as possible, so you're getting all these bonuses, so you have a lot of people. Manpower, very, very just, it is what it is. How many men can you use in war? A lot of your men are going to go to garrisoning your nation, which means that garrison, basically, imagine it as like a police force. And so if you don't have anyone to stop the resistance, then obviously you're going to have sectors actually just break off because nobody is stopping them. There's no crime, there's no military there to stop any of the, anyone from rioting. And so you always want to make sure that the bigger you are nation, like the Soviet Union needs a lot more manpower to make sure that its country stays stable than someone like Czechoslovakia or Austria. And so manpower is varied. I have 115 million starting out as Germany. Soviet Russia has probably around 130 million. And that's just because Russia has a lot more men. This is the factory tab. This is where you can see how many factories you have of each kind and how many total. 69, wonderful number, is actually how many factories I have. So this is your fuel. Once you lose all of your fuel, your tanks can't move. Your tanks will not be able to drive and will basically lose all of their defense and attack. So you always want to make sure that you have fuel if you have tanks and planes. Convoys are basically how much can you trade. So for instance, if I decide I want a bunch of stuff from, the Soviet Union, and then maybe some from the Republic of Turkey, and then maybe some stuff, you're going to start noticing that a lot of my convoys, I'm at 199, it's going to start going down. Yeah, see, so now I can't increase it anymore. Oh, I also ran out of civilian factories. But, yeah, so I cannot actually use... see, so now I have 186 convoys. So nations that don't have a lot of convoys will have troubles actually importing goods. Logistics tab is just where you see all of your information. Not going to cover that a whole lot. Army experience. This one's very simple. it deals with actually editing your armies. Let's say I wanted to add some mountaineers to my army. It is going to take 20 army experience to actually implement this. And obviously I have 0, so I'm not allowed. Aircraft experience is used for air doctrines. And so, you see, I can use 100 air experience to actually speed this up. Same with naval and army. You can speed up the doctrines if you spend 100 experience. So if like during a war when you have just an abundance of experience, it's really good to do it. And then command power is just, think of it as like how much you can do in a certain amount of time. And so, for instance, I can spend some political power. I could spend some time, formalizing a military or a militia, and then I can, I can. I mean, I can't do a whole lot now because I just started the game. There's not a whole lot to do. But I could also, let's say, promote generals. And so, if I had a general equipped, see, it's going to take 15 command power, but he can only have 24 divisions in his army. But if I promote him, he's actually going to be able to have 32. So promoting just overall makes them better. It lets them use more men. It makes their stats a little better sometimes. It may give them a perk or two. It may not. That's kind of luck dependent. It is what it is if it does or doesn't. And overall, yeah, this is Hearts of Iron. You can do stuff like justify war goals if you're communist or fascist. You can do this at any time. And so, obviously, you can ask for military access, which, because I'm not in good terms with Poland, or at least not good enough terms with Poland, they won't accept it. But, it is what it is. It's exactly what it sounds like. When I asked for military access, they let my military through their borders. If I offer military access, I offer them military access. They can move troops through my border. There's not a whole lot to it. Ask for docking rights. Pretty self-explanatory. Request Lend-Lease program. Or, request license production. Wow, I am fucking retarded today. So basically, if I was playing somebody who had really bad research, so let's say, someone like the Ethiopian Empire, I could ask Germany, like, hey, you've got really good guns. Can I make some from you? Like, can I use your blueprints to make my guns? If that makes sense. And so I can also do a Lend-Lease, which basically allows me to give them guns, so I can give them 100 fuel and maybe some motorized and some artillery and blah, blah, blah. You can stage a coup, which is exactly what it sounds like. You can basically make a nation go into a small civil war, and I mean small. But you can make them go into civil war with a total of 200 political power and a varied amount of infantry equipment. So for the Ethiopian Empire, it's going to take 300, but maybe for the Soviet Union, it is going to take 12,000, or at least around 12,000. And so, the stronger the nation, the more infantry equipment it's going to take. Boost political party is exactly what it sounds. For cost of political power, I could start making Russia fascist. Now, generally, you can counter this by just doing anti-fascist raids or anti-communist raids or banning the political party outright. And then it does nothing, so it's definitely, like, something that you have to pay attention to. And so, yeah, this is just a really quick breakdown of hoi4. So I hope you all enjoyed. I hope this was at least informative. Oh, before the video ends, I do want to say, generals, front lines. This is just going to be really simple, but front lines are basically where your men are going to stay, where they are told to actually, like, sit and stand. Offensive line is where they are going to attack. Uh, and then fallback line is where they're going to fall back. Area defense will allow one army to command a lot more people, but will also see now he went from 36 or 32 to 96, but they can only defend things like victory points, naval bases, coastlines, air bases, forts, and you can turn these off to be like, I only want you guarding coastlines, but overall, you know, that is like the nit and gritty. I didn't know if I wanted to really cover that, but it's small enough I will. And so yeah, I hope you all enjoyed the video. I hope it was informative. So yeah, this was just a really quick breakdown of hoi4. If you do want to learn more, you can definitely watch my videos. I generally explain what I'm doing and why I'm doing it. And overall, you know, you can, with this basic knowledge, you can watch a hoi video, hoi meaning Hearts of Iron, and you can understand, you know, oh, well, I see why they did this, or, oh, I understand that now. So it overall will just help you actually watch the fucking type of content, because it can be confusing not understanding why or how they're doing things. So anyways, guys, I hope this was helpful, and I hope you enjoyed the video. Bye-bye!